In one of those random chuck out bins that I walked past at Dan's in January this year, I found a little 3 pack of some Glengoynes. Now, I'd heard of the name, but I've yet to try a single Glengoyne, and that's about to change today. In my hand, I have a sample bottle of the Glengoyne Legacy, Chapter 3. Now, this raises certain questions right up front. Firstly, what do they mean by legacy? And secondly, there were 2 chapters before this one and I missed it? Damn. Well then, I better get cracking before there's a fourth one? I guess? This is Whiskey Whiskey. I'm John Chidgey. Always remember to drink responsibly, in moderation, and where and when appropriate. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and visit engineer.network/whiskey without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. One of the fascinating things about enjoying whiskey, for me at least, is digging into the backstory behind different distilleries. I mean, I can enjoy a nice independent bottler's dram or a blended scotch from all corners of Scotland with no real story behind it. Thank you, Johnny Walker. But differentiating from the competition is a really interesting side of whiskey, like how they make it. I've spoken before about how much I think the concept of terroir is way overhyped in whiskey. For wine, it's more relevant, yes, not so much for whiskey, but I don't think I've ever talked about distillery character. It's not a term you hear a lot, but I really think it should be. In other words, what is it about their yeast, their barley, their mashing times, their fermentation times, the equipment that they use like washbacks, still quantities and types and shapes, what condensers they use, how they choose their barrels, and how those barrels are stored? Now, to me, that's the important stuff because that's what truly differentiates offerings in how they smell and taste, more than what a patch of dirt a distillery sits on does. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying though. I'm not saying terroir dependent things like water sources and peat sources don't play a part too, because clearly they do, but rather, I can buy peat from a different country and smoke my own malt in Australia with it. So what did I just do when I did that to the idea of terroir, right? Exactly. Well, that was a delightful wad of waffle, John. What the hell am I carrying on about that for? Again. Well, I rather like Glengoyne's distillery story, starting with their tagline, unhurried since 1833, which was when the distillery first started operating. I might talk a bit about the history of the distillery some more next time, but the Glengoyne website includes several of their key tenets, starting with the barley is only ever air dried, meaning they don't use peat. That's fine with me. They go on to say that their stills are the slowest in Scotland. Okay. I think they mean they run their stills slower than anyone else in Scotland. I do actually wonder how you would fact check that, honestly. I mean, did you stop and ask all the people running all the stills in hundreds of distilleries, old and new, and say, hey mate, like, how long does it take you to distill a batch, bro? Like, knowing that it depends on whether it's a wash or a spirit still, the volume, the makeup of the wash, the ABV, and as well as the still design to an extent. Anyway, they finally add that it takes them 6 years to prepare their barrels. Cool. Maybe we'll talk about their barrels another time. So what about their stills? Glengoyne have 3 stills in total. One 16,520 litre wash still, and 2 equally sized spirit stills at 5,000 litres each. They all have what are called boil bulbs, and this in conjunction with running them at a slower boiling temperature, hence running them slower, increases the reflux inside the still and hence the amount of contact time that the distillate has with the copper. They use a Porteous mill like many other distilleries, and they also use a traditional mash tun, meaning they're mostly static, unlike a lauter or semi-lauter style. They have 6 washbacks for fermentation, and they are all wooden, and they all reportedly use Kerry M, which has been around since the 1960s, and Kerry MX yeast, which has been around since the 1980s. They produce 1.1 megalitres of spirit every year. That's pretty respectable. Alright, let's get to this. As far as I can tell, the Chapter 3 release was never sold in Australia, but it was sold in New Zealand and is still available across the ditch. Costs the equivalent of 98 Australian dollars for a 700ml bottle from Whiskey Galore, and they still have some stock. So if you're ever over there on a holiday, maybe grab it. If not, import taxes, excise taxes, thank you Australia. You know, the customs drill. By now you probably figured that out. It has no age statement, it has a 48% ABV, and it is chill filtered, however it isn't coloured. It's considered to be part of their limited releases range. This Chapter 3 was originally released in 2022 and it still is available today from the Glengoyne website. The first release in the Legacy series was Chapter 1 in 2019, with Chapter 2 released in 2020. To date, there is no Chapter 4 available yet. Now, the Glengoyne website has some of the story behind this release, saying the following. This third Legacy series release celebrates Sir Arthur John Tedder, the Glengoyne exciseman who helped define whiskey as we know it today. They go on to say that their offering is matured in American oak sherry casks in our Glengoyne warehouses. Sure thing. Be a bit weird if they were matured in Macallan's warehouses. Just saying. And we thank him for his attention to detail and staunch standards. Okay, good. They describe it as having fruity, complex flavours from the slowest stills in Scotland, matured in the finest casks. They love their slow stills, they talk about them a lot. A bit more about Sir Tedder, who was stationed at Glengoyne for a while. He was first witness of the Royal Commission on Whiskies, whose purpose was to determine the concept of what a whisky was, and other potable spirits, and it opened on the 2nd of March 1908. Apparently there was debate on one side stating that only pot still whiskey was whiskey, and the other that believed grain and malt whiskey combined was actually whiskey. After 37 sittings, the decision was that blends could still be called whiskey and called Scotch if it was distilled in Scotland. Well, that's great. Anyway, let's just get on with it. The tasting notes on their website are as follows. The colour, a deep gold. On the nose, signature Glengoyne deep sherry notes with accompanying our distinctive cinnamon sticks and vanilla aromas. A very pleasing combination of mixed berry jam and apple strudel intertwined, revealing some pear. Wow, that's a lot. For the palate, rich, luxurious body that's satisfyingly chewy with warm, boozy raisins. Boozy raisins? Well, alright, okay. Combining with spiced buns, slowly giving away to tartatan with smooth cream sherry. Oh, that sounds pretty damn alright. On the finish, Glengoyne are another one of those distilleries that don't believe in describing a finish on their whiskies. That's fine, I'll figure it out for them, I suppose. Right. Let's have a taste, shall we? Never tried this before. Never tried this before. So I'm going to say that's an amberish colour, maybe slightly darker amber. It's not too bad. Just looking for legs on this puppy. There we go. Some just forming around the front. Lots of little legs. Lots starting to form. They're not super fast running. Cool. Let's see how we get on the nose. Whoa, interesting. Very strong vanilla, and I can get the cinnamon on the nose straight up. I do get a little bit of a sherry influence on it. It's not super strong like a Tamdhu or a Macallan sherry. It's much more subtle, but it's distinctive. It's yeah, it smells a little bit like a little bit like some red berries maybe. And I'm definitely getting a little bit of pear actually. Yeah, it's interesting, eh? All right, let's see what this tastes like, shall we? Oh, that's all right, eh? That is all right. So the palate, so the mouthfeel, slightly oily, not super creamy. You can chew on it a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. It's got a nice even warmth across my entire palate. Even the sides of my cheeks, actually. It's pleasant. It's not burning you like, it's not killing my taste buds. It's just nice. It's not over the top either. Probably got a short to moderate sort of a finish. A little bit of heat on that finish. And some of those sherry notes I can actually detect a little bit more on the finish now than I could on the nose. And a little bit on the palate, not so much. It's quite decent actually. A little bit of caramel, I'd say on the nose as well, on the second nosing. Not a heck of a lot else. Let's go again. A little bit astringent and a bit oaky spice, like, but it's pleasant enough. It is in some respects a typical Scotch in that regard. Like it's got a strong maltiness to it. I mean, it's quite decent. It's quite respectable, to be honest. I wasn't sure what to expect. I know I have met a couple of people through Whiskey Club that are massive Glengoyne fans, and that's great. I can kind of see why now. Actually, it is quite a pleasant dram. It's not massively complex, but at the same time, it's not what I'd call an easy sipper though. It certainly is something different though. But it's quite decent. It's quite decent, I have to say. All right, so let's rate this baby, shall we? So first of all, for cost, it's a 2. It's affordable for good whiskey. That's, of course, provided you can still buy the stuff, which in Australia is a challenge. But that's okay. Your market and experience will vary in that respect. In terms of quality, I don't have to think hard at all. This is a 3. It's an easy 3. It's a solid 3. I don't know if it's a high 3, though, but, I mean, honestly, it's pretty damn good, eh? If I were to pick something that was, like, the sherry level on it, if I were to pick... I'd say it's actually close to like a naked malt kind of a sherryness to it. But unlike a naked malt, this is a lot more balanced. Like a naked malt is a bit rough, but this is much better balance to it. So anyway, so for a 2 and a 3, that makes it a green. So I mean, if you can grab one of these, I mean, generally keeping one of these on hand, probably not a bad idea, something in this category. But for my first foray into Glengoyne, it's a decent enough start. So with that, we'll leave it there, I think. Cheers. See you next time. That's pretty respectable. Don't mind that at all.